Another stunning day in Dublin City. I'm off to see a press screening of American Animals, which features our very own Barry Keoghan. Another example of how Irish film industry is booming. And behind me here, and this is pretty much the epicentre of the Irish film industry here, you've got the Lighthouse Cinema where the screening's happening, which is owned by Element Pictures. A few Oscars in the bag now at this stage. And behind me, Brown Bag Films, which has got 35,000 square feet office space in Smithfield. A real Irish success story, and it's fantastic to see it. American Animals is a scarcely believable film about a narcissistic, self-absorbed painter who sets about creating his own artificial, self-inflicted torture to inspire his own art, which quickly leads to a starving artist eating prison food. As the director is keen to point out to us from the very start of this film, this is not a film which is based on a true story, it is a true story. So we all know how this is going to turn out, and even if you didn't and hadn't read the news, just 5 minutes of seeing how they plan this bumbling art heist would let you in no doubt as to the consequences and how it's all going to pan out. The fact that it is a true story is fortunate in some ways, because if it was a fictional heist movie, the screenwriter would have been fired, because it's a scarcely believable plot about how these guys set about to steal this art. Effectively, it's so badly executed, this heist, that it's effectively Dumb and Dumber, except these guys have college degrees. I think it was Bob Dylan who said, steal a dime and they put you in jail. Steal an art heist and they don't quite make a king, but they make quite an unflattering movie about your bungling exploits. The kind of unique aspect of this film is that you have an interspersing of the documentary style interviews with the actual protagonists of the actual heist, juxtaposed with the actual reconstruction with the four actors, one of which is one of our own Barry Keoghan. One aspect of his acting in this is he certainly underplays it, and the subtlety is certainly welcome. He mumbles, he's not terribly enthusiastic about the project, or at least pretends not to be enthusiastic about it, and is always racked with doubt all the way through. Some students spend their college years drinking Dutch Gold, stealing traffic cones. This particular student, Spencer, which is played very well by Barry Keoghan, spends his time looking at the likes of Van Gogh and other tortured artists, and laments the fact that he doesn't have enough oppression and pain and anguish and torture in his own life, and is seeking some sort of unique source of torture, and he certainly does find that, and it's completely self-inflicted and quite ridiculous, and you are really watching this as a voyeur, watching a car crash in very, very slow motion. Even the business case of the whole proposal doesn't really stack up very well. It's 12 million euro. They managed to find a fence who will pay a third of that approximately, which leaves about 4 million euro net, divided between 4 people, which is $1 million each. Considering they have reasonably good careers ahead of them, some of them are entrepreneurs, college qualifications, it's a massive risk with relatively low reward. It seems quite unbelievable that this actually happened. We're introduced to all the characters at the start, and the one that stands out really is Warren, who is a lovable rogue. Really makes you wonder how the other three could possibly have placed their trust in this character. And later on in the film they express some doubts as to the veracity of some of the stories that Warren has told them, but you're really left with very little sympathy for them and wondering how could you have trusted this guy and basically put your life in the hands of this guy. While at first the whole exploit might seem like a victimless crime, the true moral dilemma arrives when they have to consider what to do with the librarian and how to manage the librarian, as they put it euphemistically. And that's probably the one time in the film where there's a real moral dilemma faces them, both the fictional characters who reconstruct it and also real people behind the scene who are interviewed in the documentary style interviews. The librarian herself gives an account of it, and not surprisingly she has very little sympathy for them and questions their morality or why they even carried it out in the first place, which we can all certainly agree with. There are some particularly poignant moments in the film. One particularly which struck me was when he's watching himself, so the actual character is seen watching his fictional character en route to the heist itself. And I think we could all identify with that, not in this extreme case, but we can all identify with moments where if we could have shouted stop to ourselves during particular moments which changed our lives, perhaps not so dramatically, then we would have. Other interesting moments that they use exams as an alibi. So anybody out there who's doing Leaving Cert exams or college exams, take note of that. Very useful. Another aspect which I found interesting, certainly from an Irish perspective, is they were given 7-year term and they were out after 7 years. In Ireland, that would have been 3. The heist is certainly one of the most hackneyed genres in film. So in this case, we see an innovative take on the classic heist, in that thugs in boiler suits are replaced with guys from college. You see that subtle interplay between the actual real documentary footage of interviews with the actual characters involved in the heist and the fictional characters as well, sometimes on the same set, in the same scene, interplaying with each other, and different perspectives on memories and how people recall different events as well, which will lead to interesting interpretations of the story where the truth really lies. Fergus Keoghan, for No Budget.